Hello and welcome to the DM's Guide of Running Critical Role's Call of the Netherdeep campaign, Chapter 2. We're looking at the Leave Taking, Chapter 2. In this chapter, basically, the players are going to go from one spot to the next spot. They're going to go from Jagao to Bezosin for their next tasking. And along that route, they're going to meet a whole slew of events. This is often determined by a random roll as they're going through and encountering different information. So this is going to kind of walk through some of the do's and don'ts of what you should do. First tip that I have going into this, I think that you should have maps prepared for almost every single one of these. There are a lot of encounters, and a lot of these end up being combat encounters, and although theater mind is good, sometimes having maps prepared allows you to feel a little bit more comfortable. At least it does with me. So I know I've mentioned it before, but that mega thread on Reddit has a bunch of sources where people created maps to kind of go along with each of the spots in this specific chapter, and I highly recommend going to those. I'll make sure to post down below the Reddit link as well. And it's a lot of very interesting things can happen. On ours, we had the patrol stop by, which spawned the hot patrol, as I decided to make the Bezosin patrol extremely attractive, rippling abs with flowing hair or blonde hair, just cool looking dudes, but my party ate it up and loved it. It was a small flavor that allowed me to also give some story and feed in information about Bezosin or why they're on patrol. I believe it's Aurora Watch Patrol, and kind of give that information out to them. If you are liking these tips, please make sure to like and subscribe. For this next tip, I think the best thing to do for this specific one, page 40 has the Xhorhas encounter table, and you can give the players the map of Xhorhas to kind of see where they're going through. Some players might be a little more familiar with this. There are a total of 8 encounters. Some of them happen under certain circumstances. They're unique encounters that can only happen once. And so also kind of making it and tracking, these are the encounters I have, and having a quick look of have I went here, mark it off, or this encounter can't happen unless I go here first, and I make sure that we grab, I believe one of these is Irvin's ring. If the rivals are ahead of them, then they can hit this event. So making sure that you have those specific triggers kind of laid out also helps. Most of these are pretty easy to follow. You can give them a little bit of a sense of exhaustion. I think the biggest tip that I could give here is this can be pretty much a cakewalk because you're kind of just going for one, but you want to give the players a sense of exhaustion as they're going through the toughest parts of the wastelands of Zoros, and trying to make sure that they're experiencing something that is still storytelling and riveting, and something that they want to be part of, even though it's challenging and they are trying to get from the next place to somewhere where they want to go. And the rivals here also end up, they can kind of, you can see them or you can not see them during your travels, depending on how fast the party decides to go to get through Xhorhas. And I think creating unique story points for the rivals, because there's not really a good way for the party to understand why the rivals are following, or they're following the rivals, or why they're going to the same location. Because in my campaign, we saw that the rivals didn't even see the vision, but the players did. And so when the players saw the vision, they knew they had to go to Bezosin. But when the rivals followed after, I didn't have a really good reason of why they wanted to follow. So fleshing out maybe why they're going there. Perhaps it's an unrelated note. Perhaps it's to see family. There's a lot of things that you can kind of do to help make that a little bit more interesting, as far as otherwise the players feel like they're followed. My players felt like they were being followed, and no one wants to feel that way. It's a little bit awkward. So plan out a little bit with the rivals how you want them to proceed, why they're going there. Give them that motivation, because it's not in the book, and you want to kind of figure out where you're going. Towards the end of it, they do get to the Emerald Loop Cavern Stop. And this place, I think, is really good to, again, breathe in that sense of interesting storytelling, as you have a bunch of NPCs and you can give each one their own personality. I know I played around with a little bit of the personalities, and specifically there was 2 of them who I forget off the top of my head, but they were at they were watching over the woods, or the Zorhaus Wastelands itself, and specifically why this place was so green was because this was kind of like a protected area, and so there's a lot of storytelling you can kind of give, more information about Bezosin, more information about the Zorhaus, and help the players kind of understand what's going on throughout the adventure here. I know that the rivals also get shown up here, so it's another really good place for you to show, hey, the rivals are coming here. Perhaps they can kind of talk through some things. But overall, I think that this was a pretty straightforward chapter. In our campaign, we ran through this chapter in 2 sessions, so you could plan accordingly. I think that because of the encounters, it kind of extends out what's happening, and you can play with that a little bit. So to plan for 2 sessions is a good starting point. And once they get to the end of the road, they get to Bezosin, where there's a big breakout, and they have to kind of figure out how to get to the next place. But that's just kind of my 2 cents on how to run Critical Role's Chapter 2. It's probably one of the lighter chapters, and it's a chapter you're kind of just survival checking through to get through, and it's a little easier, but it's still a really good place for the party to continue to bond, especially again if you have a new party that you're coming to, a fresh stable, you've only been together for maybe 1 or 2 sessions depending on how fast you went through the first chapter, and this also helps flush out some more of that kind of character bonding as they get through. And I definitely think that as you get to Bezosin, you'll probably have a group of players that are excited to be together at this point, and it's a really good feeling. And that concludes kind of my take on the DM's guide to running chapter 2 of Critical Role's Call of the Netherdeep. If you'd like to see us live, we are live every Tuesday on Twitch, and so make sure to stop by, link in the bio, and we will see you there.